Okay, welcome to 15.3. This would be pretty quick. What are the advantages and disadvantages of natural gas? This is something that you've been hearing a lot about, natural gas lately, because it's flooding the market. It's what's helped drive the current fuel prices down, and you hear a lot about it because of hydrologic fracking. And you'll be watching, like I said in the previous presentation, Gaslands 2 next week, which will help explain more about hydrologic fracking, how it's done, and the repercussions of it. So natural gas, first off, what is it? When we pump this stuff out, there are a lot of different things that are in there, okay? But primarily, it is made up of methane, CH4. 70 to 90% of it is methane. You get a little bit of your ethane, propane and butane. These two, you guys are very familiar with, propane and butane for lighter fuels, cooking fuels. All right, so when they go into a well and they tap into a natural gas reserve, when it's first coming out, they will liquefy it, all right, to move it, and it's called LPG, liquefied petroleum gas. And they will separate out the propane and the butane, keep it high pressure liquid, all right, and then transport it off to be used for as cooking fuel, heating fuel, etc. Now the methane, what they'll do, because it's the majority of what's there, to really save on space, to make it a little more safe during the transportation process, they will actually freeze the methane, so then they can move it around the country, move it across oceans, etc. And just a little side note, methane is the gas that you produce when you fart. So does methane smell? It is actually a colorless, odorless gas. So when you fart, it is not the methane you are smelling, it is what? Think about it. Good, it's the same thing that they add to gasoline so that you can smell gas. They add sulfur to gasoline so that you can smell it, right? Because gasoline itself is odorless. So the stuff that you eat, depending on its sulfur content, gets mixed in with the methane gas you produce when you fart, which is why your farts smell. Little fun fact, you know, that one was free. Okay, so here we see different pipes with flames coming off of it. Okay, and if you've ever been driving on 95, 75, if you look at, and it's at night, and you're driving by landfills, you see a giant hill. There are really no hills in Florida. And you see a little blue flame on top. Start looking for them when you're driving on the highways at night. What that is methane that's being burnt off. Okay, so it doesn't explode as it's being created by this landfill. It has to be vented and burned. All right, so you can't just vent it off and let it creep down into a nearby community and possibly have health implications, or suffocate the nearby people. So you got to burn it off. Okay, and you have to vent it to then burn it, or else it would explode. Same thing happens when we're drilling these wells. If we're trying to get to the oil, we have to do something with this natural gas. And in the past, they didn't have the infrastructure or the capabilities to harvest this natural gas. They just thought it was a nuisance product. But again, realizing that everything has a point, it's like we've taken crude oil and found something to do with all the different products in the crude oil. Now we know what we can do with natural gas, right? So there are a lot of places in the world that still does not have the infrastructure with which to harness, process, and use natural gas. What we do here in the States. So these are wells where they're just venting it and burning it. Look here, natural gas's annual production from 95 to 2012. There's the price. All right, supply is low. You see the price is coming down, and this is because the supply is going crazy. And this just coincides exactly with the passage of they call it, I'm trying to think of what it is, the name of the act. You'll hear about it in the Gaslands video. But there were some legislation that was passed in late 2005, early 2006 that allowed and opened up the door for hydrologic fracking in the United States of America, and it's just gone crazy. So our production is going nuts. Right now, though, we'll probably see a dip because the price has been driven so low that a lot of the other companies that were producing this natural gas from fracking, they can't afford to keep their doors open because the cost right now for a barrel of oil is so low that it just doesn't make economic sense. All right, unconventional natural gas, coal bed methane. It's found in coal deposits. We have a lot of coal deposits in the United States, especially in the Pennsylvania area, so we get a lot of that gas from there. Extraction process is similar to coal, resulting in massive environmental damage, where we're doing a lot of clearing of land, strip mining to get down into these beds that then have these veins of natural gas that we can tap into. Methane hydrate, methane trapped in water, buried in the tundra under the Arctic permafrost. Russia has lots and lots of this stuff, and I think I showed you guys a video in class where we had those researchers over there in Siberia, and they were drilling into some of the lakes where the methane gas was bubbling up, and then igniting it and catching it on fire. If I didn't, remind me in class so I can show you, because they're quite impressive. It's found deep in Alaska and Siberia and deep ocean. Global warming is releasing the methane hydrate at an alarming rate. It has low net energy yield and a high environmental impact. So what is that high environmental impact? This is what we're worried about. As the world is warming, that permafrost, permanently frozen ground, is no longer permanently frozen ground. It's starting to thaw out. As it thaws out, it becomes really wet, which becomes an attractive habitat for microbes and bacteria that start eating on, feeding, and decomposing the grass and the organic material in this no longer permafrost. When they do that, since they are in water, it's waterlogged, right? There is no oxygen. So this is an anaerobic activity. And the byproduct of decomposition in an anaerobic activity is not carbon dioxide, it is methane gas. And methane, as far as a heat-trapping greenhouse gas, is 23 times more efficient at trapping heat energy than carbon dioxide. So it's something to be very worried about. And there's so much permafrost over there that is melting right now that there is tons of this methane hydrate trapped, right? And as the ice caps over lakes, over this permafrost area, start to melt, thin, and eventually break, it will release large amounts of this methane hydrate into the atmosphere. So it'll become a giant Russian fart. A huge Russian fart. Advantages of natural gas: supply for 125 years, less air pollution than other fossil fuels when burned. All right, getting to it sometimes still creates lots of pollution and release into the atmosphere. So there's less CO2 when it is burned, easy to transport in our existing infrastructure. So it's still a non-renewable resource. It still releases CO2 when we burn it. It can leak from pipes, just like oil or anything else. It has a low net energy yield. Difficult to transport across the oceans because we have to freeze it to transport it, which is it takes a lot of energy. And of course fracking and the problems that will come from it that you will see in gasolines too. And that is the end of this one. Thank you for joining us.